I was like, why are all these pop tunes so shit? But I was like, if I ever become a superstar, I'm going to only sing about important stuff or about real things. I'm not going to... I remember having that conversation with myself.
Wow.
It's self-empowerment.
Yeah.
Everything in my lyrics always comes back to that. It's like, oh, how can I sort of grow from this experience?
Music has the power to transform minds, ignite movements, and challenge the status quo. But in an industry dominated by labels, contracts, and algorithms, how do artists stay truly independent? Before we dive in to talk about independent music today with our guest, DubFX, if you want to support independent media, then please do join our Live Free and Prosper online community for ad-free episodes, behind-the-scenes content, and direct access to our private community of freethinkers. You can join today at astin-gregory.com/supporter. Now, let me introduce our special guest. For those unfamiliar with his work, Benjamin Stanford, aka DubFX, is a street performer, recording artist, and producer, famed for his live looping, beatboxing, and genre-blending sound that fuses reggae, hip-hop, electronica, and drum and bass. Few artists embody the term one-man show better than him. Starting as a street performer, he built a global fan base from the ground up, proving that artists don't need a record label to reach millions. His viral performances, recorded straight from the streets, have racked up hundreds of millions of views, making him one of the most recognizable independent musicians of our time. In this powerful discussion, we explore how DubFX disrupted the music industry and built his own path, the power of music as activism and resistance, and the future of creative freedom in a corporatized digital world. If you're an artist, musician, entrepreneur, or anyone who values true creative independence, this episode will change the way you see the music industry and your own potential. Give it up for DubFX. Welcome to the podcast, Benjamin Stanford.
Given where we are, I'd like to talk about music as a message and how that's been such an integral part of your career. But did it start there? Was that your original intention when you were kicking off your tunes?
I remember when I was like 13 or 14 being sort of disgruntled by the pop music. Like it was like there was a time when I just started, I guess, I came online and I was like starting to ask questions and sort of make sense of the world. And I was like, why are all these pop tunes so shit? Like, I'd grown up with it, not thinking about it. And then all of a sudden I started thinking about it. And so I just remember thinking, I've kind of made this promise to myself, which is kind of a silly promise for a 14-year-old to make. But I was like, if I ever become a superstar, I'm going to only sing about important stuff or about real things. I'm not going to... I remember having that conversation with myself.
Wow.
But that was like before I even decided to be a musician. That was like, it was more just like, if I was ever to be a musician, it was that kind of a thing, right? And then at that same time, I wanted to learn how to make music and play. I got into I really liked... I guess that was when Oasis Wonderwall came out. Yeah, everyone wanted to sing that song. And I think I was 13 or 12. And so I wanted to learn the guitar. I wanted to learn how to play Stairway to Heaven and Wonderwall. They were two things.
Wow, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway to Heaven. Well, because I love that song. And and also obviously I also loved Led Zeppelin, but it was all about Stairway to Heaven for me to learn that song. And then, and of course, Oasis songs. And then that just sort of, as I started learning the guitar, then I got into, Nirvana, of course. And, I think everybody learns how to play Come As You Are is the first word they learn. I'm pretty sure that was actually the first thing I did learn. And it just went on from there. And then as I started writing songs, the songs I was writing, I was just writing about things that were real to me in my life, which were, very simple things as a 14-year-old, white 14-year-old in Australia, quite a privileged lifestyle. I was just seeing, and I remember my dad one time found one of my songs that I'd written and he kind of was laughing, saying, oh, well, I guess, there's not much you can write about. Like he was kind of made that joke. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. But he's like, at least it's, honest to where you're at. And I remember thinking, yeah, it's true. And so, that was kind of like, I guess, the very, very beginning of me learning and sort of making sense of writing. And then after that, I don't ever really questioned it. I never really thought about it. I just wrote songs about things that I just wanted to write about. But I guess I just didn't have any kind of inhibition. When I talk to other people, they always come from the angle. It feels like they're coming from the angle, like other people I was in bands with, for example. They would always come from this weird angle of like, oh, this is what, other people are writing about, so I'm going to sort of do my take on it. Or this is what seems to work for this artist, so I'm going to write a song like that. I never did that. It never made sense to me to do that. And also because I just didn't feel like a part of it was like, if I was to try to do a version of that, it wouldn't be as good as their version. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd rather do something that sounds like me. No one then can question whether it's good or not, because they can, but it's not the same. It's not like an imitation of someone. It's not like a bad imitation of someone.
It's wild how many people have that impulse to follow the crowd.
Yeah.
And it's no surprise that you're here at this type of event. Being
I do as well,
right?
With other things.
Okay.
It's not. It's not. It just happens to be with writing lyrics and coming up with ideas musically. I have my own idea, but when it comes to fashion, I have no idea. I just kind of look at other people that look a little bit like me, and he looks pretty good wearing that stuff. Yes. I'll buy that. I'll get those colors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't have a clue about that stuff. So
I was going to ask, how did you go from Smells Like Teen Spirit and Stairway to Heaven to the type of music you're doing now? But as I was thinking that question, I was thinking in Bath, when you're rocking out the People's Race set in the UK, I was rocking out. There was a heaviness to it. There is still that kind of rock vibe through a very different genre. Tell me a little bit about your musical evolution from, starting as a teenager with those few chords to play, the songs of Nevermind to where you are now.
So yeah, when obviously it all started with like back when I was in high school, there was 3 groups that you could be in musically. There was the rock, grunge, punk guys, and that's kind of where I kind of mainly was. But then there was also, and the metal, so obviously that all kind of was one for guitar music. And then there was like,
that was my crowd.
Yeah, that's where I was. Then there was the hip hop guys, and I liked hip hop, but I didn't like the vibe that those guys had. They always were in it to fight, and they were a bit more, they were just trying to be gangster, and they were very, I don't know, they were a bit nasty, you know what I mean? I just didn't want to be around those kind of people. And then there was like the sort of the techno kind of electronic music kind of guy. But that included everything from the cheesy house, like I'm blue, dabba dee and day, to like techno. So that was one genre.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked all of them, but I kind of knew how to play guitar, so I was doing that. But as I kind of got older and I started mixing with other people, I got into like, there was actually this really cool group of kids that were like making jazz. And that was like they were into hip hop. And they came from metal, and they, but they also were studying jazz. And so that was another thing that kind of, it wasn't part of my school. It was a different group that I found outside of school. And they opened my eyes to like more soul and funk and, understanding like where hip hop comes from and like Parliament and all that sort of stuff.
Sweet.
And so, it was kind of during high school and then I also, when I was in year 12, my last year of high school, maybe it was year 11, in fact, I was like 17. I took my first pill and went to a rave and danced. And I didn't think I liked techno until I did that. And then I was like, oh, I like techno now. And that was, all within the same time. So like, I went to loads of techno parties after that. And, there was always like a small drum and bass room or broken beat kind of sort of chill out, sort of kind of not 4 to the floor. And then there was the main sort of big room full of techno and 4 to the floor stuff. And so I'd kind of go between, and I always liked the different things. And I kind of got into Ronnie Size through that. And then breakbeat came along, and then I started really getting into like Stanton Warriors and Plump DJs and all that sort of stuff. So I kind of moved away from the 4 to the floor techno housey thing into like the broken beat stuff. And I was emceeing with DJs doing that stuff. I was still playing in a metal band. I was jamming with the jazz musicians. I was in this funk, hip hop, soul kind of band. And I was like, I wasn't just rapping or singing all of these things. I was kind of doing different things in different bands and different. Well, I was emceeing mostly, but like in the hip hop band, I was like a backing singer. There was like a main chick who was the main soul singer, and I would kind of fill the gaps with some raps or make weird tap textures of my voice with effects pedals. So I was already using my effects pedal over my voice in all of these different bands. I just didn't use a loop station yet. And then, when I decided to go traveling, I just kind of put all of those things together and bought a loop station because I saw this guy, Mal Webb, using a loop station. I was like, man, with all these effects that I'm putting over my vocals, in all these different bands, from delays, reverbs. I was making my voice sound like a bass, and I'd do like a bass solo sometimes with this jazz band, singing like doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo. And I was doing that. So I was already making and I was always beatboxing like after the show with the bands. Like I'd get drunk and maybe a bit stoned, and I'd beatbox, and everyone would sort of jam, and we'd do these kind of siphons and these sort of singing circle things after the shows. So I kind of, all of that stuff meshed together, you know, from the songwriting of the rock kind of idea of structuring your songs, to the free improvisation of the jazz things, to the soul coming from the hip hop and the soul kind of vibes. So making sure that there's soul in it, because you can make rock without soul, you can make techno without soul, but you can't make soul without soul. You know what I mean? Like that's what it's basically all about. It's all about finding the soul inside the music. So it's putting all of those elements together with my effects pedal into the loop station. I just decided to go traveling and sort of put it all on the street and do it all on the street. And when I started doing it in the UK, and I know there's a really long-winded answer to make you, how did I get to the sound? When I got to the UK, I basically discovered jungle and dubstep and garage and, you know, drum and bass basically properly. And I was like, there's like, that's lacking in Australia. It was lacking, especially when I was growing up. Now, obviously, because of the internet, we kind of get everything. But the UK set, like drum and bass and garage, kind of doesn't really exist outside of the UK. It does now. It's starting to really happen, but for a long time it didn't.
Wow, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, especially garage. Most people don't know what garage is, you know.
Wow.
Whereas like, they know what Craig David is,
yeah,
but that's not garage. He was one part of one small element of the wider range of garage, right? Drum and bass as well. Like people know about maybe pendulum and chase and status, which is still cool, but like that they don't understand like all the other nuances. Like most people don't know Shy FX Original Nutter outside of the UK. That was a big tune in the UK. I didn't know what it was. When I got there, people showed me and like, this is like from the 90s, and it's one of the roughest, most hardcore sounding jungle tunes ever made, and still loads of people don't know what that song is. You know what I mean? So I learned all of that, and then I took all of the other stuff that I already had, and it just kind of fused together. And then when I was on the street, I was kind of busking, and I was kind of doing my version of all of that. And as I and people would come up to me and be like, especially Scallies, Rude Boys would, you know, in the street, Manchester, you know, like, you know, Chavs in down south, Scallies up north, they'd come up like, let me go on the mic. And I'd get on the mic and they'd just freestyle over my beats. And like, no, give me a garage beat. And I'd like, but at first I didn't even know what that was. And I'd be like, God, trying to figure it out. Give me a dubstep beat. Give me a drum and bass beat. And I'm like, okay. And I'd do it. And then eventually I just basically figured it out.
Wow.
Because of those guys wanting it, and I wanted to learn from them. So I learned everything from these Scallies in Manchester.
Basic.
Wow. Especially in Manchester. And then, then I started, once I figured out, this is working, I can sell CDs, and I'd sell like 30 CDs in like an hour.
Amazing.
And then that became 60 CDs in an hour. And then that became 150 CDs in a couple of hours. You know what I mean? And so I was just like burning around the UK, and then I'd go to Amsterdam and like places like in Germany and Italy, and I'll just smash CDs on the street and just made a really decent living doing that before the viral videos came on. Then the viral videos happened, and then it all kind of took off and it went beyond the street before.
Boom. Wow. When you set out on that travel, did you set out to travel to do music? Was that the reason? Yeah. It wasn't just you want to go see the world, you wanted to go play?
Both. It was like I wanted to travel the world and by making music. I'd always seen loads of buskers around, and whenever I traveled with my mum and dad when I was a kid, and I always loved watching these buskers. And I was like, wow, these people are like getting around just doing that. There was this one guy called Lindsay Buckland. He's an Australian guy, an absolute genius. He built this weird looking guitar, and he had a loop. He actually built the first loop station that I'm aware of, that most people are aware of, by basically taking two digital delay pedals and turning the feedback up. So because it's a digital delay, it's an endless feedback loop. Analog delays will slowly deteriorate. Get that kind of sound. The delay eventually just deteriorates, like tape delays and stuff. A digital delay would just keep going. That's basically what a loop station is. So he created the first loop station by having two delay pedals, and he'd kind of create one loop and then put it into the next one. I don't know how he did it properly, but he was doing this in the 90s. Like I think like 98 or 99 is when I first saw him. And I remember being at a dinner party. I used to go watch him all the time. And then I went to a dinner party with my dad with some friends of his, and one guy was like, yeah, I bought this amazing CD off this busker in the street the other day. He had this like weird looking guitar and he was looping it and he was made this amazing, and I'm going, I know that guy. I've seen, I know this guy gets around. And then when I went to visit my mum in Italy, we went on a trip to Paris and he was there busking in Paris.
Wild.
And I was just like, that's what I want to do. I want to sell CDs, making music on the street.
Wow.
So, and then I saw that when I was like, you know, maybe 15 or 14. And so, yeah, by the time I finished high school, I was already literally planning in my last year of high school, my busking career. Like I was already, like if you go through my file of facts that I used in school to like for my diary or whatever, I would be drawing pictures of my amp and my pedals and my guitar and I would have like an iPod to play the new backing tracks. I had all, and I'd draw it all out and I was just manifesting it and sort of, and so by the time I finished high school, I did a couple of years of gigging around and then I just came to Europe and started doing it.
Wild, man. Have you ever read On the Road by Jack Kerouac?
No.
Man, that book is wild. I mean, the reason I asked that, there's the main character in that book, he just reminds me of you. He's just like, yes, yes, yes. He's like, there's this music, and he's like soaking it all in. It's like he was an influential writer at that time, in that prolific time of change. But he was really heavy into the jazz scene.
Okay.
But he would go to all these different clubs, and it was just this energy, the vibrant energy that I was feeling from you as you were describing all these different music scenes. Because even, you know, we're here in this People's Reset event and we're talking about the divides in the world. You see that in music. It's like, no, and I was like that. I was like, I only listened to guitar music for like such a proportion of my scenes.
We all kind of were at the beginning, I guess.
But like that has been like blown out of the water now.
Yeah.
And, you know, just so eclectic. So when did it become like, you were saying when you were like 15, like, was this your mission? You knew this was your life path at that point? Or did it reach a point where like, no, this is actually my life path?
I mean, it was also based on the idea that I was pretty shit at everything else. Like, I wasn't very good at school. Like, I was good at drama. There was actually a period where I was going to be an actor. I had an agent and I was actually doing like commercials and stuff on TV. I was in a Pepsi commercial when I was like 16. I had dreadlocks. So I actually got loads of gigs because I was pretty much the only like teenager with dreadlocks in any of the agencies. So whenever they needed a drug dealer or a surfie, I did all of those. I played a heroin dealer in one commercial, literally.
What kind of ads do you have in Australia?
It was a TAC ad, which is in Australia. There's these government-funded commercials which are to stop people from drink driving, for doing drugs. You know, so I wasn't the protagonist, but I was the guy who sold the protagonist the heroin in the ad at the party. And when I rocked up, right, they were about to outfit me, and they looked at me and like, yep, perfect.
Good to go.
They didn't even get me to change, and that was my outfit that I kind of wore all the time. Yeah, I always had that same jacket and same pants everywhere I went. So people were just like, who's that guy? I think he's his drug dealer. Subconsciously. So yeah, I played a surfie in a billboard. I did all this stuff. I was doing like that stuff, and also my whole family are in that industry. My uncle is like I've got like loads of uncles, but one of them is an actor and a movie director, and he done lots of plays like in musicals and stuff. His wife too. My other uncle, who is also a movie director, an actor, and a comedian. Then I've got another uncle who is a jazz percussionist and owns like one of the coolest clubs in Melbourne with my dad. And my auntie, she had a tap dancing school. My other uncle was a photographer when I was growing up. Now he kind of runs a different business, which is like washing cars and stuff. But so I was just around my mum's, she's always wanted to be a musician. My dad would have been a musician, but he kind of just fell into, he had me when he was like 20, so he had to build a business. And so I have a very artistic family.
You're immersed in creativity.
Yeah, constantly as a kid. So, and no one ever said to me, oh, you need to become a lawyer, you need to become a doctor. There was any of that. And when I was at school, I didn't feel clever enough to do any of that stuff anyway. And what seemed easy to me was picking up a guitar and singing, and all the girls were like, oh my God, it's so good. And I was like, well, there's something going on there. Like, it seems like people like it when I hear that.
Pleasure, pain, school sucks.
Yeah.
Just to take my chins, yeah.
But at school, I was like, I always went to really cool schools. Like I finished high school. I did my last 2 years of high school at this one called Sandringham, which is a public school. In England, public school means private school. In Australia, public school means literally public.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know why England people call it a public school, a private school. But anyway, so it was a free school. And they had a really good art program there and really good like drama and music. And so I just studied theater studies, music group, music solo, English, and IT. Those are the subjects I learned. So I know, and I dropped IT and I did another one, which was another music industry one, which was a TAFE subject, which is kind of like a university subject that you could do in year 12, so that when you got into university, you could go straight to the second year. So I basically did 3 music subjects, theater studies and English. That was my final. So there was no chance for me ever to do anything else. You know what I mean? And my dad was a bit like, all right, yeah, he'll figure it out. I mean, what I thought would probably end up happening if I didn't make it with music would I'd become a tradie or something like that, because I'm good with my hands. I'm good at building stuff. I probably would have become a chippy or something like that.
Wow, it's amazing that you had that support, because I think it's so rare that creative people actually find themselves in an environment, especially a school environment, where there is actually a faculty to actually bring that out of you. It's almost, in Britain particularly, like the arts is almost frowned upon. It's a joke. Yeah. I mean,
it is in Australia too. I just happened to go to a good school. That was the only one and I had to take a bus like an hour and 20 minutes to get to that school.
Wow, commitment.
So I purposely chose that school.
Yes. So you were traveling, you were selling these CDs. Was that then like a defining moment? Was there a defining moment for you when this is like, I'm going pro on this now, this is my path? Was there ever a mental decision on that?
It was like, so when the first year was an absolute shit show, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know, I bought a terrible van. I bought this Bedford in Peterborough off these people that it was just a lemon, and it just broke down in like, it would constantly break down. So, but I made a lot of mistakes, and but what I figured out was that the first year was when I was trying lots of different stuff on the street, different music. I wrote loads of different songs, and I did a lot of freestyling back then as well. And what I realized would sell the most CDs was when I sang the songs that I'd written that had like a conscious, self-empowered sort of theme through them. Whereas I had other songs that were just more vacuous, kind of like, hey, let's party vibes, right? And then there were other songs that were just not really saying much. Or then there was the freestyle stuff. And they were all good, but like, yeah, the ones that sold the CDs were the conscious ones. And I was like, okay, I'm going to keep doing that. And then when I started doing that more and more, I started selling like 20, 30 CDs. And I'd be like, this is the first year. And I was like, man, I did the math. I'm like, well, if I'm selling, like 50 CDs a day, if I can do that 50 CDs a day, I can do that like 5 times a week, and then do that for like an entire year, then I'm selling like thousands and thousands of records, essentially. Yes. And if I do that for 4 years, that's right. That could be like 50,000 records, like 25,000 records, I think, if the maths that I'm doing in my head checks out. And then if I do that, if every one of those people, those 25,000 people who bought my record over the course of a year, show one other person, that's 50,000 people that know who I am. And that's just in 1 year. And if you do that for 5 years, you know what I mean? That's a lot of people.
Yes.
So I'd kind of, early on, I did the maths. I'm like, this has legs. I can do this. Wow. And then, but what happened was it was an exponential growth anyway. So the next year I came out, I had better gear. I had a better van. I could move around more. I knew which cities to go and busk in. And then I started selling 50 to 100 CDs a day. And then it started, like, I was rolling in cash, basically. It was crazy. I was like a 23-year-old rolling around, and I'd be making like $3,000 a week just busking on the street. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like,
wow.
And I was like living but I looked like a bum, but I was living it up. Like I was going to all the parties, and I was going to really fancy restaurants, and I was just spunking it all and having fun, basically.
Wow.
And then after doing that for like 2-3 years, I would go to loads of I'd write to all these festivals in the UK especially, and say, hey, listen, just give me a ticket and I'll come and busk around your festival site. This is a video, or this is my music, this is what I do, blah blah blah. And I just got loads of tickets to do that, and I'd rock up with my van and go busking, and just, yeah, then gigs get you gigs. I'd go, people with stages would be like, hey, there's been a cancellation. They saw me even like playing around the food sort of vet truck area, come and do a gig, there's an opening.
Amazing.
And so I'd get on these stages and I'd do that, and then slowly the promoters would start booking me, and all of a sudden everyone wanted to book me because I was very unique as well at that time.
A quick break for a word from one of our partners. In times of economic uncertainty, gold has always been used as a safe haven for wealth. It's a tangible asset that has historically held its value, even when markets were volatile. And now more than ever, it's crucial to have physical assets that can protect your wealth. That's why we've partnered with the Pure Gold Company. They offer a secure, reliable way to buy physical gold bullion and precious metals, whether you're looking to diversify your portfolio, hedge against inflation, or simply protect your savings. With fully insured gold products stored in world-class private vaults, you can rest assured that your physical gold is safe and secure. For bullion-grade gold bars and coins, the Pure Gold Company makes it easy to purchase physical gold that you can actually hold. If you're ready to take action and safeguard your wealth, then visit danastingregory.com/gold to download your free guide and take advantage of a free consultation to explore your gold bullion options. Now, let's get back to the show.
Did you ever have any doubts or fears that it would come to an end, or was there any kind of inner critic that you had to face?
I get that more now. Back in the day.
Wow, now. Wow.
Well, just because, like, you know, I'm 42 this year, and, you know, since the pandemic, you know, a lot of money's dried up in this world, in the industry I'm in now. Because, like, I'm not living off the street as much as I can, because no one sells CDs. You can't really live off CDs like I used to. You know, and I used to, for a while there, the social media was really good at, like, I built up like 600,000 followers on Facebook within like a year. And then all the other platforms as well went viral on YouTube and all that sort of stuff because I was busking so much. And I was able to sort of basically talk to my audience, say, hey, listen, I'm doing this show, and I'd get like 3,000 comments in like 10 minutes. Nowadays, I get like one comment.
It's crazy.
And even if I pay for it, and if I pay for it, I still don't reach my crowd. So the promoters base a lot of how much they can afford to pay you on how they can reach your audience. And these days, they can't reach anyone's audience. So the money's drying up, and their promoters are losing money. Since the pandemic, a lot of industries got captured in that, like, for example, all the PA and lighting rental companies got bought up by like one corporation, basically, and they put all their prices up. So all the festivals pay like 40% more what they used to pay to hire in all the rigs. So they have to put their ticket prices up, or they have to just cut a lot of the lower sort of. I'm not the top. Well, on some festivals I'm like top tier, and other festivals I'm mid, and other festivals I'm bottom, depending how big the festival is. But yeah, same with my agency. They culled a lot of their, you know, artists that they were using, shows they were representing. So yeah, a lot of shit's happened since the pandemic, and now every year I'm like, wow, am I gonna be able to make enough to support my family? Because now I've got 2 kids.
Yeah, adulting now.
Yeah, and it's like, this is like something. So every year I'm like, shit, am I gonna make it? And it works out, but it's still, you know, in the back of my head, I'm like, well, how long is this gonna last?
Yeah. What do you see the future for the industry then? Because, you know, it has transitioned so radically, and it's almost like everything we're standing for here. It's become so centralized and commercialized and monopolized. Do you see like a decentralized breakthrough movement emerging?
You know, it's funny. Like, I don't see technology as the answer. I don't see it. I know that people think that crypto is one of the things, and it's like, I don't know. I just don't see it, because I understand the decentralization of crypto, and but it's like, for example, I think analog is the way forward. It's like, you know, the other day someone was trying to get me to go to their crypto thing in Lisbon, and he was trying to get this QR code, and it wouldn't work. I'm like, just give me a flyer. Like, just give me a flyer. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know what I mean? And it's like, I feel like there's so much noise in the phone now, and in social media, and in the whole what's going on, that there's no posters on the streets anymore.
No,
you know what I mean?
Nowhere.
So it's like, you know, flyers and stuff. I feel like it's probably going to be it's going to swing back.
Yeah, renaissance.
Into that. Yeah. Where's the future heading? I have no idea. But I think that, like, there's always going to be a certain percentage of people like us that are searching for the conscious music, So that's every year I manage to come through, because there's at least those people exist.
Yes.
And I'm very lucky that I'm tapped into that. It's a very small percentage, though. Yeah. It's not a commercial size percentage, but I can live off them and you know, support my family. So, you know, I'm surprised every year, but they exist. And I don't know. I don't actually have the answer to that one.
Yeah. So your audience responded well to the conscious music, but what preceded that? What was your inspiration to start writing in those ways. And interestingly, what you said about your father, actually, fascinatingly, he was saying you were writing about what was true to you then.
Yeah.
And then as you become older and more mature and you embrace the world, in the same way, you still are writing what's true to you. And
Totally. And he's dropped some proper truth bombs on me over the years. And what's hilarious is like, he is very much like in the Matrix. Like my dad is like me. The only thing we argue about is the stuff that we're talking about at this conference. Yes. You know, when I told him, hey, I'm going to a conspiracy theory convention, right? Because I mean, it's not a convention for conspiracy theories, but it is for conspiracy theorists. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone here, we all pretty much identify with the theories, right? Like I'm 100%. And he was like, well, oh, don't you think that's a bit dangerous? What if they poison the water supply and fluoride? You know, it's like, and he was trying to give me shit, like just to be joking and stuff. But anyway, he told me some really interesting things. Like when the first year that I was busking around UK and Europe, and I was still trying to work out what I was doing and like trying to work out what the conscious music was. And I was kind of picking up on but I still was not fully sure. I went back to Australia. I was like, Dad, check this out. I figured out this new way to do things. Like, look at this. And I set my equipment up in his lounge room and I was really excited and I was kind of rushing it and I made this kind of shitty beat and looped a bass line over it and just started like, yo, yeah, like pretending not even freestyling, just kind of like making noises over the beat. And he's like, so, but it's like, I'm like, no, I just looped a beat, beatboxing, and then I added a bass line, I put some harmonies, and then I just started like, you know, rapping over the top. And he's like, yeah, but there's no song. And I'm like, yeah, but, and he's like, why would I listen to it if it's not a song? And I'm like, you're absolutely right. It's not about the gimmick. Because I was like all obsessed with the gimmick of the looping and the technology. And that's what a lot of loop artists fall into. They forget that, yeah, it's cool for 10 seconds, but then it's like, well, what are you actually saying, dude?
Yeah.
And so my dad was the catalyst for me going, okay, you're right. Whenever I did those conscious songs, people seemed to stop and buy my CD more. I'm just going to point in that direction.
Yeah.
And so I did.
But your music in many ways is a social commentary. I mean, last night I was intently listening to some of the lyrical content, and it's just, it's a powerful commentary about the state of the world. It isn't just about the state of the world. You know, I hear some of your own inner journey, your own personal challenges within the lyrics, but there is a social commentary there, you know, so, you know, your eyes are clearly wide open. And I think so many artists, if I look at the history of music, so much of the music in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, even into the 80s, was kind of commenting on what was the state of the world. And then we began this conversation about that kind of plastic, fantastic pop music where it kind of lost all of that, became almost narcissistic. It became very shallow. But your music has got that depth, and I think people are resonating with that. Obviously, that's why you're a part of this crowd. They love that kind of vibe. But what has been the continued inspiration for you to seek those? I mean, where does that come from? Because, you know, for me to have that riff on the world, I've got to be paying attention to so many variables. But does it just come in? Where does it come from for you?
I don't know. I think I feel I'm pretty lucky. I've got like a bit of a photographic memory for especially for things that interest me with this stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'll have conversations with like, I remember watching Alex Jones stuff back in 2001 and like just after the 9/11, I remember for the very beginning thinking, oh, this is a real attack. But then as the media started saying shit about the passport, like finding the passports, at the instant I saw that report, I was like, this is bullshit. Wait, what? How can they, like because my brain it just went through all of the maths involved for them finding a piece of paper passport amongst rubble of two buildings that literally just fucking melted. So how is that possible? And then everyone going along with it. And I remember saying to my dad, how can they find? He's like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, they must have just found it. I'm like, but think about it. How could they? What? It would have been in someone's, like, what was it, on the floor in the plane? And then when it had crashed, it somehow flew out the window and flew off. And like, what? How? Like, think about it. And that was the first one. And then the Building 7 thing. And that was the beginning of me going, that was my wake up. Like, it was like during that time. And so then I started listening to Alex Jones stuff. And then like, I don't know, I watched the Zeitgeist documentary when that came out in, was it 2006 or 5 or whatever. And so like, for some reason, my brain, it's like glue, like certain bits of information and facts are just able to just like stick there. So then when I'm writing my song and I just pick it up, it's all stuff that I really like and interests me anyway. So it's like an ADHD thing, I guess. So when I'm writing songs, it's all there in the back of my head. And then I'll just sort of reference that or use it to go down a tangent, which will then take me somewhere else, which then, oh, that's right, there's that other thing. It's like, you know, when you see those crazy in the movies, the conspiracy theories have got the red lines going through all the FBI as well. I've got that in my head. I've got all those red lines. I can see the connections with and everyone at this convention can too, I can tell. So I've just got that in my head, and it just comes out. I don't know, I can't tell you how it happens, but when I'm writing music, it's just sort of like happens for me in a lot of ways. It's not a conscious thing.
Yeah, it's been beautiful to watch some of the collaborations emerge from the event that we had in the UK and now in Mexico. Some of the people that you were connecting with in the UK now joining you on stage on the mic in this event. I think that collaborative element of this scene is so powerful, and I think, you know, from all that genre merge all these different genres, I think that only will expand with all these different people bringing their different creativity and ideas. You know, how can people relate that into the real world, into what they're doing? How can people take this creative energy that you've harnessed along with the kind of collaborative approach to actually start to forge real change? How can we take this creative energy and make a difference in the world? You know, for those who aren't on the musical path, you know, what's the genesis that's within you that you think other people could lean into to support change?
Well, so like the main theme, I would say, that is like sort of the bedrock to all of my lyrics is, and it happens also to be the kind of the theme of this festival, but it's self-empowerment.
Yeah.
Everything in my lyrics always comes back to that. Like if I'm writing a song about a breakup song, it's not, oh, I'm so sad and oh, woe is me. It's like, oh, how can I sort of grow from this experience? That's like that's all. I always make sure that it ends at least with some kind of like, I've like, you know what I mean? Like I'm lifting myself out of the problem or whatever.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm always doing that in all of my songs. I need to make sure that there's kind of like in a film, like, you know, there's like the character goes through this journey and eventually comes out the other end and they've changed or whatever it is, you know, like I try to put that in my songs as well. If it's like a self, sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a self, like bring them sort of a song, a self-reflective song. And I never try to say things like, you know, oh, you need to do this, or we need to do this, or I might say we need to do it in some context, but it's never like, you know, wake up, motherfuckers. I don't come with that energy. I don't think that works. It doesn't work. I try to say I need to do this because I feel like when I see someone who's trying to change for the better, that inspires me to want to do it. So, you know, I guess to answer your question, like self-empowerment is the key, I believe, to everything. Because if everybody was actually self-empowered, because even the politicians that are doing the greedy, horrible things, they're not in their power. They're doing those things because they've just been kind of bred by the system to do that. Like they're led by Satan, if you want to call it Satan, or by greed, or by, you know, the corporate world, or, you know, whatever that dark energy that they've kind of embraced, you know, the capitalist mindset that of like in money above all, right? Above even human life. It's like a sociopathic, psychopathic energy. And, you know, that happens when you're not empowered, I think. You're just giving yourself to this evil spirit, right? You know, that's one way of putting it. I don't truly think of it like that myself, but it's just an easy way to put it. So yeah, I think that like that's the key. And these kinds of conferences are, bringing people together and reminding each other that there's a support network of people. But I honestly, and I'm going to say that, and I don't want this to sound like negative or anything, but I truly don't believe that we can wake up 100%. It's never going to happen. And I don't even think, and if we did, that's when they would release the Bill Gates mosquitoes and all the billionaires would go into their silos. So yeah, I truly don't think, I don't think even it's in our best interests to wake everybody up, because I think that like, that's when they will go into martial law or do all that shit. You know what I mean? I think that we need to just find the people who are already on our trip, and the ones who are kind of on the fence or have their ears pricked and like slowly waking up on their own, they'll all come and find us. You know, we don't have to fucking wake people up.
Yeah.
I think that's actually going to be worse.
It's detrimental. Puts people back into their own shell. They get more entrenched in their own viewpoints.
That too. And it's like in the Matrix, you know, don't wake them up too quickly, or they're already too indoctrinated, you know?
Right on. And the same thing is everyone becomes quote unquote awake. We've just got a homogenized community again. It's just like that to me is the ultimate dystopia.
Exactly.
Everyone just thinks the same. Actually, the diversity of thought is what keeps the kind of tapestry rich.
True. And we need to be questioning, you know, not only the system, but ourselves and everyone around us. And, you know, because there's a lot of spiritual narcissists in our scene too.
Oh, yeah.
You know, especially in the conscious community, there's like, it's very unconscious actually. I kind of refuse to play a lot of festivals because it's just full of these wankers that are just with their big hats and their crystals and, you know, walking around and they're all these burners, Burning Man people. And it's like, they don't give a fuck about anyone but themselves.
Plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I just think, you know, for me personally, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to try and be as awake as I can be and just sort of dodge the crap, but I'm not going to be like with a megaphone. I'm not an Alex Jones type person, you know, like that's not who I am. And I don't think it works anyway. Like I like Alex Jones because he's a nutcase and I love listening to what he's got to say. And I think he's right about most stuff. But I also, and this is another off topic here, I truly think that there's like a lot of people like Alex Jones who are kind of, whether they've been put, like Russell Brand's another one, David Icke, like even Tucker Carlson, people who are like in these kind of positions where they're sort of talking a bit of a counterculture thing currently, right? They're talking about, they've gone all towards the Trump thing, which is kind of, that's for me was a big like flag, exactly. But like, what I feel like the system, like, you know, like in the satanic thing, right? They say that they have to let you know that they're poisoning you, for example. If they're going to poison you, they can't just do it in secret. They can't do it in secret. So they'll have someone like Alex, they have these mouthpieces, which are the crackpots, but they feed them the correct information, right? And so that they can say, well, we told the public that we're doing this, we're spraying people with chemtrails, but they've also, they give us the choice. They go, you can watch the mainstream media and listen to the lies, or you can listen to Alex Jones and listen to the truth, but we'll call him the liar. But at least we're giving you the truth.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? That's how how I make sense of what's going on.
Fascinating. To wrap up, you talk about the central component of self-empowerment, and actually I was talking to Jason Christoff here just the other day, and he said these events, he doesn't see it as like a truth movement anymore, or a freedom movement, or a conspiracy movement. He sees it as a betterment movement where people are trying to improve themselves and actually make themselves and the world a better place. What have been some of the most important personal breakthroughs or personal moments of insight that have led to self-empowerment for you?
Oh, I don't know. I've read some cool books over the years. I don't know, I think my mum was a big influence on me on that. I think it's just how you brought up, I think, because by the time when 9/11 happened, like I remember like having conversations with people around me and a lot of people being like, shut up, Dan, what are you talking about? And like, especially my family. But someone like my mum, who hadn't really thought about it much, when I said it to her, she's like, yeah, you're probably right. Like, there was no, nah, shut up. It was like, but she hadn't even thought about it. But as soon as I kind of presented it to her with all the stuff, she's like, wow, that actually makes sense. Actually, they probably would, you know what I mean? And so my mum's just that way inclined. My mum is very, was distrustful generally of like, not just the government, but everybody, including me. You know, they like say she's just that's just who she is by nature. And I grew up with that, and I've got a bit of that in me. You know what I mean? I'm a little bit, I guess, my brain automatically goes, if I meet someone, I'm like, is this guy a Freemason? Is this person trying to take something from me? Is this person, like automatically I'm just going to start questioning, you know, is this Illuminati? Is this guy is he a CIA agent posing as, you know, someone who's trying to help our community? And there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
They exist.
Yes.
And so my brain automatically goes there. And I've even got a line about them in one of my songs, but it's like they're talking about converting the people who are posing, you know, into actually realizing that this is the true mission. And because there've been a lot of people like that, I think, that have come to infiltrate and then realizing, oh, this is actually my people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they exist, but you know, whatever, no judgment. It's fine. Whatever it is. If you're a Freemason or you're born into that, or like people out there who are, I don't know, man. I don't know enough about it, but all I know is I'm not, and I'm just going to do my best to just live truthfully and as empowered as I can and try and help other people want to do that. But
top man.
Yeah.
Give it up for DubFX, everyone. If you're not familiar with his music, I'm going to link you up in the description so you can check out the tunes we've been talking about. We're lucky we've got him twice here in the People's Reset for you at home. Next time you get the chance to come to see a show with DubFX, make sure you check it out. Is there anything you'd like to share for the people at home where people can find you? Is there anything that you're working on at the minute that you'd like to tell people about?
Yeah, working on an album with my wife. In fact, we've just finished it. And it is the best album I've ever made. It's not even my album, it's her album. I just produced it, made all the beats, kind of musical director, I guess. She wrote the songs and she's the main focus of the album, and it's awesome. So that's out this year. I'm working on another album with Woodnote this year, and I'll be touring all over the world as usual. And yeah, just YouTube me. If you just want to support any musical artists, everyone has Spotify. I've got Spotify too, but if you really want to support people, go to Bandcamp, because that gives you the best percentage. Like if an artist is selling their stuff on Bandcamp, I think Bandcamp only takes like 10 or 15%.
Okay,
which is
good.
Really, and that's just to basically put them on the platform and aggregate it and all that stuff. I think that's a pretty good deal.
Sweet. Right on.
As opposed to Spotify giving you 1%, nothing.
Yeah, fraction of nothing.
Yeah. So,
oh man, keep up the great work.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for being here.
Cheers, Dan.
Right on.
Before we sign off, if you got value from this episode, don't let the conversation stop here. Join us inside the Live Free and Prosper online community for exclusive content, guest Q&As, and a private space for free thinkers just like us. It's just £5 a month, and by becoming a member, you help us to beat the censors. Join us now at danastingregory.com/supporter, or click the link in the description. I'll see you inside. I've got enormous respect for DubFX, and I love the fact that we grew up listening to similar tunes. He's shown us that true creative freedom doesn't come from record labels, algorithms, or industry gatekeepers. It comes from staying true to your music, staying independent, mastering your craft, and building a direct connection with your audience. His journey from street performer to internationally recognized artist proves that you don't need permission to succeed. You just need the courage to create your own terms and follow your own path. Do check out his music on Bandcamp and Spotify. My personal favorite track is Society Gates on his Everything's a Ripple album. If you're passionate about pursuing an independent path, creative freedom, and pushing back against the system, then please do join our private online community, where we continue these conversations with like-minded creators, free thinkers, and trailblazers who are out there trying to make a difference in the world. You can become a member today at danastingregory.com/supporter to get access to ad-free episodes, behind-the-scenes conversations, and a space to connect with others who are breaking free from the system. So head over to danastingregory.com/supporter to join us today. If you love this episode, hit like, subscribe, and do share it with someone who needs to hear this. There are plenty of music lovers out there, and the future of music and creative independence relies upon our support. So please seek it out and support those who are out there creating music with a message. And do look out for my forthcoming interview with Presence for more on this topic. Until next time, live free and prosper. Thanks for tuning in to the Dan Astin-Gregory podcast.